Welcome to this week's episode of Here to See the Shelburne. And what a weekend it was for the Reds, securing European competition for 2026 in the most wonderful way. Great comeback against our buddies up in Bohemians, and a man who is just back from his own break, Senior Dunny, or I don't know how you say Senior in the basketball, Dunny, but were you basking in glory on Sunday evening?
Oh, there was an awful lot of basking going on, Andy. How you doing? Before the Bows fixture was refixed, I had agreed to treat treat the wife to a break, and she's I was telling you off air, Andy. She's big into sort of minority languages, indigenous languages, and always wanted to go to the Basque region. So we went to Bilbao. And that was before the Bows game was refixed for the Sunday. So look, it was a gift for her birthday, and for the fact that during the summer I was off gallivanting, following Shels here, there, and everywhere, and we didn't actually get a holiday together anywhere. So I had to pay the piper eventually. But so we ended up watching the game on Sunday in an Irish bar. But we fully celebrated. I did not have any FOMO because it was just such an unbelievable explosion of happiness and joy that I could have been on the moon if I had a link to LOI TV. I would have been just as happy there. So an unbelievable way to win any game, particularly against them, particularly away. And then obviously with what's on the line for us, ensuring that we're in Europe again for the third season in a row is brilliant. And making life very, very difficult for our nearest neighbours is lovely. A bit of lovely bit of rustling into the bargain.
Yeah, well, Jen wasn't there, as you said, in Dalymount, but there was certainly some indigenous language, I would say, being used by some of the fans on the Jody stand. I, like yourself, had to watch. I was on family duty. Damn it! But I watched all the game on LOI TV. God, if I had hair, I would have pulled it out after 25 minutes. But we'll start with that game, Dunny. 25 minutes in, I thought we were all over the place. I was easy to sort of say the effects of travelling back from North Macedonia, but it was a miserable day in Dublin. 2 goals we gave away were fairly poor, but enormous credit to the lads that they dug it out, and that really sets us up nicely now to have a bit of a crack off Pats on Saturday, because we need to win that game and hope that Derry drop points, but we'll need to win, I think, by 2 goals, because as things stand, Derry have a goal better difference to us. But when we had our as fans called it, our mini meltdown there back about a month ago, Donny, after the draw of the game, this is what we had hoped. Well, this is what I had hoped for, certainly, that I knew we could do this. I knew we had it in the tank. 5 league wins now on the bounce it's tremendous, isn't it? It's really, really good.
Yeah, you want to be careful there, Andy. People might start accusing you of being greedy. You're talking about second place, talking about 2 goal victories on the last day. Yeah, and look what you said at the start. I thought we were an absolute rabble. That was the word that I used at the time. At the start of the game, the one thing obviously being abroad and watching on the stream, particularly being out of the country, I wasn't best placed at all to gauge how much of an influence the wind and the weather was having on the game. Now, the pitch was terrible, obviously, but the pitch was terrible for both teams. I did have a few people who were at the game sending me messages being like, yeah, the wind is a real issue here. And so perhaps having played against that in the first half might have somewhat have helped us to sort of, once we got on top of staying on top. But maybe just better on another level to just get it out of the way. If a lot of times you can't rely on the wind keeping up for 90 minutes. But either way, they made hay while the wind blew. And I thought, as Joey O'Brien himself referenced it, I thought we were very poor defending set pieces, very poor in general. Trying to pass it out when it was clear the field was an absolute bog. I thought that was poor decision making. And only for that John Martin goal, really. And we had a little bit of a patch after that. That kept us in it. I remember thinking at halftime, or even after that goal, I was like, okay, can we get to halftime with the goal in it? Because obviously all we needed was a draw, which makes the end of the game even more hilarious. Is that like when I saw 6 minutes added at the end of the match, I'm like, Jesus, just blow it up. 2-2 is amazing here, you know. The jersey's off. Already that means like we're happy with what we have. The jersey rarely comes off when you're looking for more, you know. But look, we did turn around. I think obviously like the changes, whether it was the change of shooting into the goal, did we get a bit of push from the wind? I don't know. We certainly got a push from the bench, and a change of shape, I think, as well at the back, pushing players on because we needed to go for it. In Bain coming on at halftime, and felt a bit bad for Lewis Temple actually getting dragged out brought to Shkëndija during the week, no minutes, and then whipped at halftime in the derby. But in Bain came on, and obviously everybody's favourite Scott McInroy comes on as well, and according to the apps, which I always have a look at, he won player of the match on almost all of them, and for a performance that was half a match, that's not too bad, and it sort of shows where he was in comparison to everybody else. So second half, kind of a different game, really, Andy. That's how I recall it, anyway.
Yeah, very much so. I think visibly, like looking at the game, McInroy was the key change. I don't really know. I don't think JJ Lunny or Lewis Temple did a lot wrong, but obviously, Joey said afterwards he was certainly not happy with the way we were defending from set plays. A couple of squeaky bum moments, but look, sometimes you ride your luck. And to be fair to John Martin, it was a super finish, which really going in at 2-1, I think Bowles weren't overly happy considering the domination they'd had for the first half an hour.
No, but it was a funny one, Andy, because with the excellent media that's come out of the club since the game, the videos and stuff from the match have been spectacular, really, really great. Credit to everyone there. I'm sure it's probably Cleve who's behind that and doing a great job. It showed the one off the line that looked from her angle. I'm going to assume it was her. That looked over the line from that angle. It's certainly incredibly close to being over the line.
That was the Shels chance, Dunny, was it?
Yeah, at 2-1.
At 2-1, yeah.
Yeah, so we could have gone in level now. A bit of a smash and grab in 10 minutes type of job, but the stats were like we actually had bigger chances. They had more shots. We had they had 17. We had 12. We had 7 on target. They only had 4. And for big chances, we're down as having 2, and them only having 1. And our everybody's favourite, Rob Gaffney's in particular, XG was almost double theirs, which is a bit wild when you consider how late our second and third goal arrived, and particularly that like Kerr McInroy's goal must have almost like 0.01 XG. Like you're not going to be expecting them to do that, or anyone to do that. So we actually managed, with the few chances that we had, that they were all quite close, and Bowes, for all of their being dominant, didn't really have Spiel pulling one world class saves out of the top corner or anything like that. But they couldn't handle our changes, and they did kind of. I thought Joey, as ever, really, really concise but to the point, and hit the nail on the head in his post match remarks about that they looked like a team who didn't, or were trying not to lose, and we were a team fully going for it. And nothing says fully going for it more, I suppose, than once you've got your late equaliser that you push on and go and take the 3 points.
Right on cue with a question from Eno Dowd. He'd like to know, he says, since Joey has come in, we've seen a lot of late goals in our favour. it looks like he has instilled confidence on the players to always believe they can get back into the game. Is this all down to Joey?
Um, Hard to say. Obviously, the sample size is what, half a season. But versus our previous manager who had 3.5 years. So, I think certainly there's small moments like Rovers away recently, where we won, and you were kind of half expecting. We spoke about it on here, Andy, that you were waiting for the shoe to drop and that for them to get the equaliser, because they always do, or they always score against us, and it didn't happen. So like if we didn't have the Shkëndija debacle the other day, I'd be inclined probably to drink the Kool-Aid on that one and go, absolutely, we're teak tough mentally, and we're seeing things out. Look, I think having Vessel Spiel in goal for all this has been very big. I know he's not flawless, no one is, but I think that's instilled, even with the choppy nature of centre back pairings and lineups in front of him. I think he's been a revelation, really, between the sticks, and his ability in all aspects of the game, I think, has allowed us to shut up shop better and more frequently than before. But certainly, look, all the ships have risen under Joey, bar one or two, and I mean that personnel wise, but certainly I think across the board, are we defending better than we had been in the season, in prior in the season? Probably. Are we attacking better? Certainly. So yeah, I think, look, all the plaudits. We haven't, go to Joey. We haven't had a run like that since the start of last season. So we haven't won 5 games in a row. I know we hadn't won 2 hardly at all, and then 3 was a new high water mark for this season, and then obviously 4 and now 5. So I did a little bit of digging, and didn't have to dig too far, of course, because we had a great start to last season. But we drew away at Waterford the first day of last season, and then went on a run from February 23rd to March 29th, where we beat Rovers, Sligo, Galway, Bows, Pats and Dundalk. 6 wins in a row. And that was the foundation, I suppose, for the league. But this run is tantamount to that almost, and coming at just the right time to get us over the line for Europe. And look, we said it last week, didn't we, that we would have been top of the form table since Joey's appointment, and it's only been emboldened since, because the run continues. So yeah, I think whether it's a mental thing, whether it's just a new voice thing, which is unusual, obviously, because he would have had a voice before in the dressing room, but there's something that has changed, and changed for the better, and a good transfer window as well. We can't gloss over that, because obviously, as I said, Spiel and Beng, these players have added a lot too. But Joey's stock, absolutely through the roof.
Questions and comments time, Dunny. Plenty of them this week. Stephen Jones, he said he had worse weekends, just getting over the scenes when the second and then third went in. Ger Corcoran, fantastic win. We're playing like champions again over the last few weeks. All we need now is to finish strong and hopefully win a European match. That would be nice. We'll touch on Europe shortly. Dave Brennan, this one's maybe a bit interesting, Dunny. He said the change to a 4 at the back with 20 minutes or so to go made a huge difference. You can see what the celebrations meant. Was it that simple for the back, or did we just say, look, we need to go for this because we have that massive win behind us? Bows seem to have run out of ideas.
Yeah, it was a bit just more gung-ho generally. JHF came off for Caffrey, 73. Norris came on as for Cam, and I think Bows at that point, were they really any kind of attacking threat? I don't really recall being. Well, I was very nervous, but I don't recall anything too clear cut. So yeah, look, Joey O'Brien's gone forward to back at Rovers away. That started this whole ball rolling, really. So it's good to see it being utilised, even though it does often feel that it's almost one of the 10 commandments of football now, that thou must play or start every game at least with 5 at the back. But yeah, look, the in-game, it's undeniable. The in-game management was top-notch and absolutely worked in our favour.
Yeah, that's the name of our book coming out for Christmas, Dunny. Game management. Good one here from Carl Fitzmaurice. He says it's always great to beat the unwashed, but you know how long Kerr and Harry's contracts are. Well, I believe Harry Wood has one more year to go, till the end of 2026, and I think McInroy signed an extended, better contract there last April under the multi-year phrase as they use now, Donny. So I'd imagine he has at least a year to go. But
I think McInroy might be 2, actually.
Yeah, hopefully.
Not just next season, but the season after. And this is something that's come up just in passing with friends and so on, that people are concerned. And I know John Murdoch, when he was on as a guest, had said that as well, that he was speaking about Harry Wood, I think, at the time, and said Harry was playing so well that he was getting worried that he was going to, he was playing too well, that he was being too noticeable, But having players under contract obviously is great, but it isn't a panacea against players being taken from you. It's just minding yourself on the back end as the football club, I suppose. So, and look, we are where we are in the food chain of European and global football. We have to accept that just at some level. And if a club, for example, from the UK wanted to come in for a McInroy or for Harry Wood, I have no doubt that they could, and if they wanted them bad enough, could buy out whatever clauses or whatever it would take to pay, to pay out 2 or 3 years salary even, to get the player. And there's so much money sloshing around in the, not just obviously the Premier League's on a different stratosphere to almost every other league, but in the Football League in England, there is so much money. Players go from academies and under 23 teams to championship clubs and so on for 6 figures frequently. So if someone wanted Harry Wood, and why wouldn't they? Same with McInroy, particularly the form that McInroy has showed on this recent run of good form, from results perspective. They could buy them out. So like we could have them on a 10-year deal, but there are clubs very close to to where we are, and clubs closer to where both Kerr and Harry are originally from, that could snap them up if they really wanted to. So there is a certain amount of, well, it's great that we have them under contract, because that would presumably mean they're not going to go to Rovers or Bows or Pats or Derry or wherever. But I don't think that we can just put it to bed and say, well, that means that we 100% will have Harry Wood and Kerr McInroy and whoever else is under contract for next season. Because if the UK clubs, for example, want them, they have the money to buy them out. So not to be doom and gloom about it, but if you remember, say, Gavin Malloy's situation, I think that's what we're trying to avoid as a club going forward, is that you don't want to have your pants financially pulled down for one of your best players, a player that we've, in my opinion, yet to replace adequately, for peanuts, really. And there was a clause in that contract that basically was just to stop him from going domestically to somebody else, I suppose. But as soon as the very meagre buyout clause from a UK club was triggered, then he was going to be gone. So we heard about Jack Henry Francis's as well. That's a long 3 more seasons on top of this, which is amazing. And Dan McDonnell, who is generally the best muckraker in the business when it comes to these sort of things, says to his knowledge, there is no clause of any kind in Jack Henry Francis's. So that would mean, they couldn't be triggered for a small amount or whatever. So that would imply to me that almost all of the contracts that we have with these type of players do have clauses, but Jack Henry Francis's doesn't. So that's good news. But again, just we can't be completely sure that we will have who we would like to have going forward. I think we have to be aware of that.
It wouldn't surprise me if Rovers are sniffing around one or two players. They could very easily offer double wages what they're on in Shels. There'd be no real skin off their nose. But as you said, Dunny, if you look at League One clubs, for example, in the UK, you got big hitters there: Cardiff, Bolton, Luton Town. Like all these clubs easily pay 10 grand a week to a lot of players, even more. So if you can put in your mind seeing someone like McInroy or Jack Henry Francis playing at that level, like there's a lot of money for them to make over there. I know you're a long suffering uh, Birmingham fan, but thankfully they're not in League One. But
No, and like that's, if you want to just use that as an example, Birmingham spent 10 million sterling on a striker in League One last year to help them get out. So there's big money at all levels of the game there, and like you said, like Bolton Wanderers is a prime example. If they wanted, our entire team, they could buy them overnight, and it wouldn't be a huge financial outlay for them, considering what they pull in. So, again, not to be the bearer of bad news, but a bit of realism, as I said, as to where we are in the food chain is something that we have to always be aware of, and it's the same for every other club in this league, and that's just where we are.
yeah, it's a compliment to the players, I'd say, Donny, that they're piquing some attention. So I'd say all tides all the tide rises all boats. So Sean Kelly, John sent in. He said he started off very poorly. Credit to John Martin. He's scoring some important goals for us this season. He certainly is. Donny, one little fly in the ointment, if I may, is the fact that we're giving away a lot of sloppy goals. And I'm sort of looking at the one over in Skopje last week.
Mm.
An expensive lapse. We might just touch on that game before we move on. We nearly came out of it with something, but that's definitely one that we let slip.
Undoubtedly. A very hard one to take for multiple reasons. On some level, isn't it nice that we can go away in a European match in a group stage, and expect a result, feel that we've been really, really hard done by, to not win, to not get something from the game. Arguably, we were the better team, but yeah, it's game management again, Andy, isn't it? We kind of just had a total systems failure as the game ticked into the red, between losing Boyd, having no sub to come on for him, or dare I invoke the ghost of Banquo with the Sam Bones concussion injury / situation, that wasn't, not that I would call for it to be seen again, but that could have been used to get 11 players on the pitch to defend the last few moments. Obviously, it was a bit of sloppy play from Mbang, or no communication. I'd be loath to, and I was loath to sort of criticise him at the time, because I thought he had a very good game in comparison to some other people. And maybe it was just tiredness, and that looked like there was a lot of running done on that pitch. It looked like a big surface to cover, and I thought he'd done pretty well on the night. Obviously, we don't defend the resulting corner, and for me, like, ultimately, that it comes down to that. There was a very incriminating still image that one of the Hendersons put out, I think, on Twitter.
Yeah, Dave
where
Henderson, yeah.
Dave Henderson, yeah, where Paddy Barrett, was I know he might have been trying to read the situation of most danger and maybe saying, okay, well, if someone gets a shot here, I don't want to be in the same line as everyone else. I could maybe be around Spiel and kick it away, or I don't want to try and psychoanalyze him, but I thought it was very poor from him. I thought Paddy Barrett, obviously Paddy Barrett's one of our best players. Paddy Barrett, we wouldn't have won the league without Paddy Barrett. Paddy Barrett's credentials, don't need my copper fastening to stand on their own 2 feet. But him having been suspended and then coming back, I think he's been poor. I think he's looked off it. I think he's looked rusty when we expected him to come back and kind of lead and be like, okay, well, great. It's great that Paddy's back for these big games now. I thought he was our worst defender on the night. I thought even Mark Coyle, this is in Shkëndija, I thought Mark Coyle was superior to him. I thought his passing was way off. I thought his decision making was poor and laborious, and then just the sort of the error at the end. Look, they happened, but I thought it rounded off a pretty poor display, unusually poor display from him. And I thought when we were unusually poor on Sunday in that opening stodgy period, particularly at the game, I didn't think he was covering himself in glory either. I was getting frustrated with the amount of long passes that we were, or these long balls, supposedly long passes that just were consistently finding Bohemians players and not going near any of our lads. So look, there's a level of privilege to be upset about getting done in injury time away in Europe and feeling like you've been completely ripped off. But that said, like we're trying to set the bar higher as we go to make this, not an uncommon thing. And the reality is, just even financially, that's a huge error. That's what 133,000 euros worth of an OG. And I felt bad. I just straight up, I felt bad for Neil Doyle, who was over there and had to fly back with the team. Someone who's financing this club, and then very basic errors that didn't have to happen lead to something that financially hits you so hard. And not even that, but then the more I thought about that, I was like, well, whatever about the 133k, the fact that we have now not got a point in that game that we kind of circled as being one where we spoken on here, Andy, that John Marnock had said maybe we need 3. We'd argued 1 was probably enough to keep the group, or the group stages alive. Not getting that point, at least when we had it in our grasp, for me probably means that progressing or even getting to the playoff round, which is worth multiple times what we would have gotten for the draw, that's also out the window. So it's a immediate effect of losing the 133 that we had in our hands, and then it's compounded by, for me now, I think it's very, very hard asked to get anywhere near that playoff round, which is even more valuable. So it's a very, very costly mistake in every sense.
Yeah, that's well assessed there, Dunny. Paddy, superb player. I think he was probably at the end of a chain of mistakes in that goal. But I think Dave Henderson also mentioned that it was a fatigue. I think Dave said fatigue. Paddy did look a bit, he looked a bit tired. But as you said, Sam Bones being out, you bring Lewis Temple, you fly in 3,000 kilometres to sit on the bench. It's easy to say that now, Dunny. Another 30 seconds, we would have been on the flight back with a point in our pocket and 130 grand in the bank. But it's just sort of, it irks me that and then we see again Lewis getting whipped off at half time on Sunday. I don't think he did a whole lot wrong, but you touched on it on our last chat and a couple of times before that about the need now for serious investment in that back line. Joey, I would imagine, has identified that area as a key area for improvement.
Yeah, you'd 100% imagine so. And look, there's something sort of jarring about the Lewis Temple thing in general. again, to sort of piggyback on stuff that Dan McDonald's been saying, effectively, is that Lewis Temple, he picked him, I think, as his one to watch on his podcast recently. Since Lewis is getting back in the team, I think Dan has been impressed by him, and effectively sort of saying that he thinks Lewis Temple will have his choice of suitors, be it domestically or in the UK, come the end of the season. And again, I would have expected him to at least play some part in Skopje. It's a long way to go, as you said, for anyone who doesn't get on. And look, he has no God-given birthright to get minutes, but and as I said, to be the first to leave the fray against Bohemians. Look, the change has worked, so all's well that ends well. But again, it just sort of that period of like, Lewis Temple's rehabilitated his job and career, that we were sort of discussing recently. Now is like, oh, okay, something is rotten in the state of Denmark there, I think. But the only thing, Andy, that I would worry about regarding, look, it's a big job to rebuild the defence any given year, I would say. And look, being champions last year, being in the group stages of European competition this year, and qualifying again, obviously, which we've done now for next year, is brilliant, and all boost your profile to would-be players. But like looking at Shamrock Rovers, they need new defenders. St. Pat's need new defenders. Two clubs who can probably outspend us, certainly are outspending us currently. So I think there's going to be there's a dearth of quality defenders available in the league. Like, we were looking to get Sean Hoare, I believe this time last year, to plan for this season. And I remember feeling a bit bummed out when we lost him to Pats. That was the kind of narrative that it was. He had a choice to make when he was leaving Rovers, whether he'd come to us or go to them. He went to them. He's been a total flop, and probably a reasonably expensive flop at that, and injured all season long. That can happen. Look, but that we were kind of shopping in the same store as our rivals there. They beat us to that one. It didn't work out. We might be shopping in the same store again in a few weeks' time. I know that our management team recently flew to the UK and met with the data wizards behind the curtain in the Jamestown land of Oz, and I would imagine that everybody is probably aware that there is a dearth of quality available in those positions at the highest level, it would appear, in this country at the moment. So we might be looking further afield and casting the virtual net into broader terms. And we've seen it with Norris, for example, how a player, an unheralded player from an academy can come in, and a reasonably unheralded, I suppose, a big club for sure, but can come in and get into the team straight away and provide a real boost. So I wouldn't be shocked if there's a few more Norrises coming our way in the near future.
Yeah, that'd be nice. For Lewis Temple, I've no basis of this, Dunny, but I can sort of see Pat's making a move for him to start to build a defence around him and Joe Redmond. I think Lewis Temple has a certain criteria, physical, age. He ticks a lot of boxes, but I hope it doesn't happen. But I was just watching Pats the other night, and they're everyone's crying out for that area of the field.
The fact that Keeley at Drogheda now is being touted as like he's the name, like that's what people are saying. It's like, oh well, he's the one who seems to be ticking the boxes, delivering goals, keeping them out at the other end. and obviously he had gone from Drogheda to Pats and was seen as being completely unsuitable to play for them because he wasn't seen as a good enough, player with the ball, and the type of defence that Pats wanted. Drogheda are a little unusual in that respect, I suppose. And look, we've swapped a lot of defenders with them in the last few years as well. And Andy Quinn springs to mind as a centre back, and he was really not fit for purpose at Shels, but has gone back there and has bloodied our nose a few times and scored in their FAI Cup win or whatever. Kev Doherty, obviously a former centre back himself, seems to, the way he approaches centre back play is very meat and potatoes, head it, kick it, clear it, get your body in the. And players like Keeley, players like Quinn, he can identify them. You have to give it to him. If they have shortcomings in other departments, he makes them play in a way that doesn't expose those shortcomings or tries to keep that, to keep the game simple. And there's a lot to be said for that, for maximising the talents that you have on offer. There's no point in signing players. We signed a bunch of wingers this season, and then decided we weren't going to play a system with wingers, for example. We didn't. You don't get every signing right, but like there's ways to help getting the most out of players, and signing a bunch of wingers and playing without wingers is not one of them. So if you want to sign someone like Keeley for next season, for example, and then you want to have dynamic pace and overlapping and underlapping centre backs, that's probably not going to work. But if you want to sort of sit in and be stubborn and a bit of a lower block, as they say, then someone like him could do a very good job. So yeah, look, hopefully Pats won't have European football to offer, and you would look, it's not up to us, Andy, but I'm sure most Shels fans would feel the same, that if Lewis Temple got an offer from somewhere abroad, you'd happily wish him all the best. And but what is not nice is if he rocks up, a Lewis journey away or a bus journey away in another Dublin club shirt. But I think I wouldn't be surprised either, Andy, if it happened, whether it's Bowes, whether it's Pats. I certainly think he'll have offers. Whether he chooses to go there or not remains to be seen.
Yeah, interesting. You're a grizzled old centre back yourself, Dunny, from your glory days. Do the centre backs these days, do they have the ability to turn in from a Conor Keeley into a more of a Franco Baresi sort of carrying the ball out, libero, so they call it, but. I don't think Shels. Well, maybe Joey. I said Joey's from that stable of old-fashioned centre backs. Is he looking for more expansive defensive players, you think, or would he be happy to have your 8 out of 10 every week, clean sheet, sort of defensive back line, rather than, because the goals we're leaking at the moment are.
Yeah, I think I'd need a brain transplant at this stage, Andy, to sort of. To modernise my thoughts on defending, but I think I'm just too entrenched in my feelings on it. But I did play briefly as I went for most of anyone my age or around my age probably would have grown up playing in the back four, and I did play in the back five for a season or two, and the coaches would always say, well, you're not supposed to get into these wide areas. You defend the 18-yard line and you move as a 3 and come back. There was no overlapping, underlapping, and stuff like that. Effectively, you made the wing backs do all your running. And the main thing you were supposed to do was head it, kick it, pass it to the wing backs or feed the midfield. But I think that's moved on quite a bit. But from Joey's perspective, I mean, look, anybody should be able to defend set pieces. It's someone equated it recently, I think, to the difference between building a house or knocking it down. It's a lot harder to build a house, but knocking it down is straightforward enough, and that's kind of how I'd look at defending. In that, if you get, if you have a plan and you have fit and healthy people who are on the field, you should be able to, head and kick balls away. I don't think Bo's employed, I should say, any particularly nuanced or skilled versions of set pieces to undo us on Sunday. It was pretty standard. But I think overall, as previous contributor there would have suggested, we have, I think, gotten better in that. This is a sort of a throwback to something that happened a while ago, so I'm not sure if it's necessarily a trend. But I think there's going to have to be some, and I'm sure there is, internal dialogue about, what type of defence do we want for next season, sort of going forward. And whether that, do you get your personnel based on what you want to do, or do you get the best personnel available and then decide, okay, with those that you have, how is the best way to, what system suits the players you get once you have them as a bit of a unit. We've spoken about age profiles and whatnot before, so I think we have enough attacking flair in the team and players that we assume to be here for next season, that if we just shut up shop at the back and we're a bit more frugal and stingy when it came to, we don't have to overplay it. I don't need to see Paddy Barrett pinging 35, 40-yard balls left and right 10 times a game. I think we have enough quality now with the central and players that we have, particularly now, Jack Henry-Francis in the building for the foreseeable, hopefully. Let him get on the ball, let Lunny get on the ball, if McInroy's still here, let him get on the ball and do their thing from that point. That if we just kept it simple, stupid at the back and didn't try and be too clever, I think that might benefit us. So look, you need agile players, you need people with recovery pace, but you also need people with just a defender's brain. And I think maybe in the modern age, that's what I'm seeing less and less of. And like even right up the way to the Premier League and stuff, you see goals from playing out in just ridiculous areas where people are being dispossessed and caught. And you're like, well, Franco Baresi wouldn't have done that there. You know what I mean? Like he knew, there's your defender's brain should be on an all-time, switch to worst case scenario.
Stick it into Rosette if needs be.
When it needs to be done. But I don't know where we're going to. But look, having Joey there as someone who he was a very skilled player as well. But I don't think Joey would have been overly into the idea of passing a goal kick back to your goalkeeper inside the 6-yard box, for example, to get a move rolling. So I hope, and I'm sure there will be some pragmatism when it comes to the type of players we're going to be looking at for this new look backline that we're all keen to see.
Yeah, I fully agree. One, if you were Neil Doyle, would you be on the next flight? Is it to Minnesota or wherever? Shels Spiel is under contract with a big suitcase stuffed with $100 bills, saying how can we get this guy on a full term deal? He has made a big difference. But I think he is under a contract in the US.
1,000,000%. In fact, we've spent so much time talking about defenders and whatnot. I almost think this is the linchpin of the whole thing. That if you got to keep Spiel for a whole season, with the slightly beefed up defence in front of him, like I think we could be a serious prospect for a title push next year. So look, what will be will be. I know Neil Doyle is a fan of Spiel. How could you not be? But so I'm sure he'll do everything in his power to, within reason, to convince him. This is another thing, by the way, not to go completely off topic, but the stuff about the Spiel chant and people still being cranky arses about the thing. Like if me, crank numero uno, can let the Spiel thing slide, if he likes it And this is what made my mind up immediately. That video of Vessel realizing that that's what people were saying, and him like getting a buzz off it. I'm like, anything we can do for him to have more of a buzz about playing for Shels and staying here,
100%.
do it. If we need to do, like Elvis Presley used to get cheeseburgers flown in from other states and stuff on a helicopter. If we need to get stroopwafel and Gouda cheese and whatever, brought in on helicopters from the Netherlands, then that's what we need to do to keep this man happy. So get over yourself with the crankiness about the Spiel thing. He likes it, therefore we should like it. And I'm strangely confident, Andy, that we're going to keep him. I don't know how. I don't know why. But I have a good feeling.
Any knowledge or any details?
I'm just trying to read the tea leaves. I'm trying to read, vibes. And the vibes are good. Now he didn't get it, he got minutes in Minnesota because the other fella, the number one, was off playing international tournament, I think. So, look, I think there's a world where you say, come back closer to your family in the Netherlands. Everybody loves you here. European football guaranteed. Is life in Ireland a bit more at the pace that he would be familiar with at home? Probably. He's from Gouda. Yes, and just, I don't know if playing football, like if being a number two goalie in that league in America is a huge amount of fun. Thousands of hours, or for thousands of miles, I should say, of flying done every week, constantly in airports and hotels. I'm sure the money is very nice, and the stadia and so on are great, but I don't know. There's something, I think we're offering something a bit different, and it seems to be something that he likes. So hopefully there can be an arrangement met, even if it's for an extension of a loan, or something like that. But yeah, I hope I'm not being naive, but I am strangely confident in that one.
Those tea leaves are rarely wrong, Dunny. So we'll fate in the tea leaves.
Well, don't shoot the messenger if we see him back in the States.
No, I think I'd agree. I think there's reasons to be hopeful. It was his birthday there. Was it the Sligo game? A couple of his comrades came over from the Netherlands, and I saw him coming over to have a little embrace afterwards. So obviously they were over to see him and to celebrate his birthday. So it's little things like that may help the sway. As you said, he's close to home. We've now guaranteed European football again, which, as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, that could get us one or two extra signings through the door, Dunny, that players that may have just been slightly on the fence. So it's important now, and that allows allows Joey hopefully now to start ramping up his recruitment wish list. And then,
it allows Dunny to blow more money on booking.com is what it allows.
Absolutely.
Right. But yeah, look, sorry to put a pin in that one, Andy, that of course, like, he's going to be playing in, AZ Alkmaar Stadium very soon, as a Dutch boy. These are opportunities are on the table playing with us that would not be on the table playing in the MLS. So something like that, I'm sure probably his whole family and friends and whatever will probably have tickets to go to the AZ game. And there's an element of the shop window there for him too, being like, well, if I'm in this team playing in Europe, ultimately he probably would see his career flourishing more in Europe than moving lock stock to America. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay, good stuff. Just before we touch on Pat's, thanks again to Sean. Well, Dunny was off doing his cultural tours as always. We had Shauna with us last week for our Women's Premier Division review. We got some interesting feedback. Shauna, as always, very honest. Bernadette Fraser, she is a fan of yours, Dunny, but she's also a fan of Shauna's. So she said,
It was a good listen. I was listening to it while I was in the air. Fair play to the two of you, and yeah, and done in jig time as well. I was shocked when I got the little notification. You were not messing around, Andy.
no.
No flies on you. So yeah, very interesting listen. And of course, like Shauna always shoots from the hip and has strong feelings and strong opinions and can back them up. So yeah, we could do with a few more Shauna Cooks in the world, I think.
Yep, thanks to Shauna. We'll more than likely have her on before next season comes around. Donny, we also got some very nice compliments to you, as always, regarding your history of Macedonia last week, which I believe came in very useful for some Reds who made the trek over to the Balkan area.
Really?
Yes.
Well, yeah. It's an interest. I found it interesting anyway. Just the Albanian slant and all that. And look, I said it last week that this is something we're probably going to be seeing more and more of as we keep playing these European ties. So yeah, I saw that the local canine population were big fans of the Reds. That we have a
I noticed
Sconto dog now that's been adopted.
that.
I believe it was. I saw there was some wild. I saw a picture as well of a crow drinking from a little suppy orange juice carton or something. Yeah, so the animal love seemed high in the agenda over there, and it's just I felt so bad for everybody just to take the shine off, or a bit of the luster off a fun trip, and with a kick in the teeth like the last minute concession. But it does seem that people rose above it and enjoyed their time over there.
Yeah, so we'll touch on the next European game, which is Thursday week. I think it's the 6th of November, back in Tala. Drita are in town. That really is probably a must-win at this stage. Sonny will do a full analysis and preview of that next week. So to wrap up today, we have one league game remaining, and it's our old buddies from across town, St. Pat's, who had their only mini meltdown last Friday. There's three teams on 51 points. Pat's slightly ahead of everyone else on goal difference, but it would be lovely to beat them on Saturday afternoon, Donny, wouldn't it? Just to bid them farewell. And maybe, you never know, Drogs could leapfrog them and Bohemians into fourth. That wouldn't be a bad end for everyone.
No, it's just on some levels it's a shame that they all can't lose, but it's a sort of a reverse Sophie's choice. Can I not kill them both? But yeah, what will be, and there's obviously the slim chance that Cork City could do something very hilarious that'll make all of this redundant for Pats, Bows and Drogheda. So that would be good fun. But yeah, Pats are they are a very weird group of people. And they're led by a very strange man who's into very strange things in Garrett Kelleher, and the fact that not more is made about his thinking on the world and certain religious things that go along with it. The fact that isn't more widely known is breathtaking to me, but I'll park that. I saw that they were bestowing awards on themselves during the week, that the club gave their ultras some sort of merit award of outstanding achievement in just existing and being great guys. So they had that, which is great. They had their end of season awards night. They lost the Leinster Senior Cup final, which I thought was pretty funny, against the Dundalk team that are they've been on the rip for the last fortnight. Yeah. And the aforementioned Sean Hoare, I think, went off injured in this game as well. Or some maybe or was it the defender that I heard mentioned, well, what did they call him? Cyborg. They were calling him on the stream. Might
Cyborg,
might have
yeah.
might have been injured. Um, but just funny that they, and of course the final was at their own stadium. So they have one like with Pats, you never know. They're kind of streaky like Derry in that, you know, sort of weird abilities to look incredible and, you know, marauding and stylish, and then just fall and, you know, fall apart like a paper hat on Christmas Day at other times. So presumably they need to win. Is a draw any use for them?
No, they must win.
They must win. So look, we don't like, we've already done our bit, and there's an element of like there should be a bit of triumphalism at Talca Park
Yeah,
on
actually, Dunny, apologies.
on Saturday.
A draw could do them if the other game finishes a draw. They'll finish fourth in goal difference.
Okay,
But
yeah,
I would kind of think
they have to go for a win.
they all have to go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's so nice, and you know we said it a while back. You know, it seems a long time ago that, you know, traipsing out of Head in the Game Park or Sullivan and Lamb Park after the defeat to Drogheda, and thinking, you know, it's a long way back here. And even the idea that, it'll go to the last day, the sort of throwaway remark that I brought up a couple of times about it'll go to the last day against Pats, you know, it'll da da da. And I was like, well, we needed to pull our socks up big time to even have that chance. And the fact that we've gone and done it with a game to spare now is brilliant. So that's why, as I said, I think there should be a lot of triumphalism around the place on Saturday, no matter what happens, I suppose. But you would like, on this great run, and the fact that we're looking ahead to European games and stuff as well. Our season doesn't finish here like theirs does. So you can't, you know, just phone it in either. Yeah, I think we just have to enjoy it. I suppose we have to be a bit careful with minutes and stuff. That's just the reality of where we are now. I was shocked how much football Jack Henry Francis played in the last two games. I thought he looked absolutely dead in Skopje coming off the field, and I thought he was out on his feet probably by half time in Dalymount as well. I think he stayed on till after the 70th minute, and then even I saw in the celebrations of Harry Wood's goal, I think he ended up falling over and doing himself an injury on the sideline. So either, I don't know, either he's indestructible or he's very destructible. I can't decide which, but we might have to rest him or give him fewer minutes. But yeah, let's just enjoy it. I have no idea what the result might be. My gut maybe would say that we won't lose it. We're not going to lose a game at home on the last day. So maybe a score draw. But hopefully we just can rub some salt into the wounds of Pats, and hopefully they end up with nothing. And hopefully Bows end up with nothing.
And Cork win the cup.
Yeah, well, look, even if Drogheda get one over on Bows, it's just great to see it as well, Andy. Like I have it just in my notes started off with, these are the good old days. Like, we're living in great times. Will Clark summed it up quite nicely after on Twitter after the game the other day, just saying that these have been some of the most enjoyable years of his time supporting the club. And you know, if you're looking at Pats, you know, they've given the most boring manager in the history of the league one of the longest contracts in the history of the league, and the most, you know, financially heavy contracts when it comes to the club. They're in turmoil off the field. This is their last, you know, grasp at a straw to try and save anything from this season, which they went in as, let's not forget, a lot of people's favourites to win the league outright. So that this season has really been a total failure for them, no matter what happens. Shamrock Rovers behind the scenes, I know, look, they'll probably go and do the double, but before they've even won the league, people are looking at them as terrible champs because they're spluttering and losing match after match, including obviously at the weekend. But everybody hates everybody else at Bowes. Like nobody likes anybody, from Dan Lambert to the manager to the players to even like Derek Pender, who's very recently a club hero, is now a figure of mockery and hate. They haven't won a trophy in 16 years. They haven't been in Europe since COVID. Prior to even like Dundalk and Cork. Dundalk have just people who would have been winning trophies when we were struggling. Cork have finished bottom of both men's and women's league. Dundalk have somehow managed to get promotion, and in the same sort of news cycle, are now people are like, is the club going to fold again? It's just perpetual crises there. So where I'm looking from right now, we are sitting pretty, and I know, look, we're not going to win the league, and we're not going to win the cup, but we should feel very happy about where we are, and we should feel very happy about where the club is headed. And on and off the field, I think we are looking pretty good compared to most of the peers around us.
Thank you, Donny. Yeah, a great way to finish the show. So we have Pats in town on Saturday afternoon. I think it's a 4:30 kickoff, last day of league action. Would be great to see a big sellout Talca. Send the boys off with a big rousing reception ahead of next week's trip to Tala and European action. So, Donny, have some nice, well-deserved rest after your trip. And thanks for joining us again today.
Nice one. Enjoy the midterm for all of those who celebrate.
Well, I'm certainly not celebrating, but anyway. So, yeah, thanks to everyone for listening again. If you have a moment, please share the show, or even just do us a little like. Donny likes the thumbs up and keeps us feeling good. So, enjoy the week ahead. As Donny said, great times for the Reds. Enjoy this weekend, and we shall speak to you soon.